Welcome into the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. I'm Rob Sanders. Thanks for joining us this afternoon. We've got a great program planned for you. It is Friday. That means we are picking some games against the spread, ladies and gentlemen. We'll get into that momentarily. Also, we've got some different storylines that are going across the college football world this weekend. We'll get into that. And several other little things here on the Rundown. Of course, you can join us at 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here this afternoon. We've got some news from up at Clemson. We'll get into that in a moment. I tell you what, it's you look at what Clemson's going to this weekend, all signs are pointing to, wow, something bad happening to to Clemson on the road. An update on Arch Manning, the big time quarterback prospect, where he's going to end up. Also, if Spencer Rattler were going to transfer, where would he go? Some folks have floated some names out there. I will give you some of those. Deion Sanders is not going to coach this week. We'll tell you why. All of that on the Rundown. And by the way, today is Show Me Friday. Tell Me Friday. Why is it that I should believe that your football program is going to win this weekend? So there's that. If you've got a game that you're looking at, that you're like, you know what? I feel really confident about this game, even if it's not your team. We'll take the calls at 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you want to join us here on the Rundown this afternoon, right here on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Let's look at a couple of things here about the Clemson program really quick. Clemson going up to Pittsburgh this weekend, and I tell you what, the Tigers started out as a 3-point favorite. Now they're like a 3.5-point underdog. It is not looking good for them. So I'll tell you why. It was announced earlier today from several different sources that Clemson junior receiver Joseph Nagata tested positive for COVID-19. Will be out for Sunday's road matchup with Pittsburgh. He was starting to get with it a little bit. Been kind of not really living up to the potential of his recruiting, but it seemed like he was starting to get it. 18 receptions this year, 352 yards and a touchdown. So we'll see how that works out for Clemson. They're obviously going to be short a receiver as they go up to Pittsburgh. And a game that should be a shutout. I mean, a shootout, not a shutout. My goodness, wrong term there. Yeah, it's a mess. That's pretty much what, when you have that happen to you at this point with any program, you have to figure out what to do. But for Clemson, who's had offensive struggles anyway, and they're playing a Pitt team that averages 52 points a game, yeah, it's looking not good on that front. Also, there was a comment from, as I'm going through my notes, yes, Jimbo Fisher says Texas A&M is aware of a potential trap game against South Carolina. All games are trap games, Fisher said. You've got to understand the importance of your opponents being faceless no matter when you play them. And I think that's when you start to become a program that your practices don't reflect who you play. It reflects on how you play. Yeah. Trap game would have been a little bit differently when thought of a little bit differently with maybe the Mizzou game going on the road. They're at home. Now, don't take that into account as that there's no chance for South Carolina to win. When you line up and you are two Power 5 programs, unless you're Vanderbilt, and Vanderbilt almost won last weekend, so that kind of helps out a little bit. But the reality is that it's going to be a tough matchup for South Carolina as well. we could have a weekend where all three of the big in-state schools, because Coastal's in the list now as well, I would say, could come out with a loss. So we'll see how that works out. Carolina Jackpot on YouTube says, I hate that for Clemson. I think he's being sarcastic. Happy says, Pitt will absolutely kick the living crap out of Clemson. Book it. Ah, man. What a mess. What a mess. What a mess. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. South Carolina going into like a rebirth of the Zeb Noland era, because that's your quarterback now. Luke Doty apparently had surgery and is done for the year. So whatever you get out at quarterback now, that's what you've got. You know, you could go with Brown as the backup. We'll see how that works out. But there are a lot of Gamecock fans that were seriously, hey, wanting Zeb Noland to have more of a shot. But now you're going to get it. We'll see how that works out. By the way, some more football notes. Kenny Pickett up at Pitt is having, a heck of a season. 1,934 yards, 21 touchdowns, 1 interception, completing just about 70% of his passes, averaging 9.4 yards an attempt. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. He's third in ESPN's QBR metric, first in the PFF's grading system for QBs. And this kind of has the opportunity to be his coming out party. It really does. When we went to ACC kickoff in July, Kenny Pickett, I believe he was there. We didn't get a chance to interview him, but we did get a chance to sit down with DJ Uiagalelei, and the world was, basically spinning around Uiagalelei. And the reality is that the better quarterback this season has been Kenny Pickett. He really has. So he's the third FBS quarterback since 2000 to throw for 20-plus touchdowns and 1 or few interceptions through his first 6 games. He is really slinging the football. Some other notes for the from the weekend here. I was looking around at we've talked about Mizzou and how their defense is bad. Mizzou doesn't play this weekend, but man, if you look at some of the stats, they rank 121st nationally in yards allowed per play. They're giving up 6.2 yards per touch on the ground. That defense is not very good. With Auburn, their running back situation is unique in that they've got a really, really strong running back room. I say unique in that, a lot of times you have one guy that will just take over, but Tank Bigsby's been 526 yards, 6 touchdowns. Jarquez Hunter is another player, a 3-star athlete, ranked 44th overall in 247 Sports Composite. He has been doing some really, really good stuff. 3 touchdowns so far, averaging about 8.5 yards a carry. So there's that. Some little notes there on some of the stuff going on this weekend. By the way, we also have the Alabama-Tennessee game. Growing up, the Alabama-Tennessee game was like one of the biggest college football rivalries. Remember back when the Alabama and Tennessee game meant like everything? Tennessee hasn't beaten Alabama since 2006. Wrap your head around that in a minute. Just for a minute. It looks like they're going to win their 15th straight against them this weekend. And, college football, the world can change in a matter of seconds, but Alabama right now looks like a much, much stronger program. And it just makes you look back and think about back to some people call them the good old days. If you're a Tennessee fan, when they were competitive with Alabama, right now, they're not. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. You know, everybody does these are my top 4 teams. I thought about doing the worst 5 teams because nobody really does that. Try to be unique. The worst Power 5 teams. You can make an argument that Kansas is the absolute worst Power 5 team. But I'll tell you who the worst Power 5 team is in a moment. Let's go out to the phones. Welcome into the rundown. Good afternoon.
Hello, Rob. This is the Potato, calling you direct from Cork, Ireland.
You're calling me from Ireland. What's going on in Ireland?
Well, I was just stumbling across the YouTube and came across your station. I was wondering if I could share with you and your listeners some of the influence that SEC football has had on Ireland.
All right, we'll buy that. What influence does the SEC have on Ireland? Because the only thing I think of with Ireland, of course, is I don't know, golf. But go ahead.
Well, you see, Rob, South Carolina, the state itself, is on the coastline of the United States, as you know.
Yeah.
And even though it's a long distance to Ireland, there's a jet stream that goes from South Carolina to Ireland. And so for over 100 years, the Irish people have been smelling the stench of the South Carolina football program. And despite our pleas from the United States government to perhaps move the South Carolina program inland so we didn't have to smell it, nothing's been done. So I was hoping I could gain support from you and your listeners to try and get Williams-Brice Stadium moved farther inland so we don't have a potato famine from the stench of the South Carolina program.
Well, we don't need a potato famine anywhere. And the Gamecocks had some validity at one point. They haven't always been bad. Come on now.
Well, we've been dealing with it for over 100 years, Rob. I mean, you've got to understand. All we are is simple farmers.
Simple farmers.
We didn't even know what SEC football was until that stench began. So,
the
world has become a much smaller place.
I appreciate the folks from Ireland listening to the show, and you guys are awesome. And what team do you like that since you're now following SEC football over there in Ireland?
Well, you see, Rob, we do have some because of this. There has been some positivity that's come from it. We've actually created some tunes and folk stories about SEC football. Would you like to hear just a piece of one?
All right, we'll buy that for a minute. What do you got?
Okay, I don't have the best voice, Rob, so you'll have to forgive me. And I'm a little bit older now, so it's not as good as it used to be.
Okay.
If you don't think Kirby Smart is a great coach, you're probably a few nickels short of $1.
I don't think you guys use dollars over there. Now you've ruined the whole thing. You've ruined the whole thing. I don't think they use dollars in Ireland. Thanks for calling the program. 803-978-1832. 803-978-1832. Oh, man. I think that's some Georgia fans that are still upset. Well, my theories with Kirby Smart, and I'm sorry about that. I'm sorry you guys can't get over it. Just tough, I guess. All right, so I do have something that I want to get to about Georgia, something that I thought was interesting. We'll get to that later on. In addition to some other college football storylines for the weekend and picks against the spread, we'll have all of that for you in when we come back here after our next break. I do want to put out there, Deion Sanders said he's not going to be coaching Jackson State this weekend. Remember, Deion Sanders had to have like some kind of crazy toe surgery. And with that, he has been basically sidelined due to that foot surgery. He says that due to my recent foot surgery, I'll be following my team of doctors' orders, and I'll not be coaching this weekend. His team is 5-1 going into this weekend's game against Bethune-Cookman. And right now they lead the East in the SWAC. They could win the SWAC. That would be some interesting stuff there for Deion Sanders. They had the spring league, basically. He's basically coaching a team that could win the championship, which he's not going to coach this weekend, though. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the rundown this afternoon. on Fox Sports Radio 1400, of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Tomorrow, don't forget, we will be doing our best Gamecock coverage on our sister station, 103.5 FM WVOC, 560 on the AM dial. We will be doing pre and post game covering South Carolina's matchup with Texas A&M, the battle for the Bonham Trophy. Yes, the Bonham Trophy, which South Carolina has never won the Bonham Trophy. Maybe this will be the year the Gamecocks can get it done. You know, people are like, man, it's a 19-point deficit. You know, Texas A&M was a, 17-point underdog to Alabama? I don't know, man. We'll see. Tough matchup there for South Carolina. The Fighting Zebs. Maybe they'll give Zakondre White the ball a little bit on Saturday. Quick break. We come back. We'll have picks for you and a lot more. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. That's funny, Go Bucks. All defensive, Coon. Your team's not the worst Power 5 team. Calm down. We'll tell you who it is. Megan, they think that you're trolling to get me to defend Georgia, which would be a next level troll. I just think Georgia's a good football team, and I don't think that Florida is. So why would Mike Tomlin leave the Pittsburgh Steelers to go coach the LSU? I don't get that. Not buying that at all. I said worst Power 5 team, gentlemen. Kansas might be close. There is a team worse than Kansas, though. Your accent's terrible, Biscuit. Oh, goodness. I'm about tired. Yours. Welcome back to the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. We were talking about who would fill out the bottom of my worst Power 5 teams. Several folks in the chat room were talking about Kansas. No. I have a team that's worse than Kansas, ladies and gentlemen. How about Arizona? They're 0-6 on the season. They lost to Northern Iowa. They've lost 18 games in a row, dating back to October 12th of 2019. The longest losing streak by a Power 5 program since Duke lost 22 straight. from September of 2005 to September of 2007, tied for the 29th longest losing streak in history. And they have nothing but Pac-12 games ahead of them. They're playing 3 quarterbacks right now because they can't figure out who they want to play. It's a mess. The ground game averages about 3 yards a carry. And Jed Fish, their head coach, he may go 0-12 in his first season. What a mess. What a mess. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. I do have something interesting that that David Pollock said today. Or was it, when was it? It was actually yesterday. Pollock was asked about the starting quarterback at Georgia. And of course, Georgia fans have been adamant that, I'm not necessarily adamant. I'd say that there's a good section of them that aren't really buying into what Stetson Bennett is doing at quarterback. So he's actually led them to a 6-0 start, and they're playing pretty good football behind him. I think they're the best team in the country right now. But there is this logic that, things are going to happen when he gets into a quote-unquote big game, like an Alabama game, etc. So David Pollock was asked about it on one of the ESPN shows that he does, and here is what Pollock said about Stetson Bennett.
No, there's no controversy. Stetson Bennett is the quarterback. I mean, there's nothing else to be said. I mean, he's super efficient. You see the touch on the balls. These play action passes has been absolutely brilliant. One of the best in the country. And besides that, he's an elite athlete. He can run the football too. So I don't think there's a debate when it comes to the quarterback spot. I think JT will come back and provide some really, really good depth. But Stetson Bennett's a baller. I know he's not the 5-star shiny tool that everybody likes to see. Trev, I know you watch as much tape as anybody. The dude's efficient. He's good with the football. He's improved a lot last year with his decision-making, and he's a really good athlete. I don't know what else you want from your quarterback.
Okay. When you hear that, and I know there's a section of Georgia fans to put up for, let's just be honest, for the failure that was last season, they put a lot of that at Stetson Bennett's feet. Oh, he's a 4-foot-tall quarterback, and someone called him the Keebler elf. And, if we didn't have that elf at quarterback, we would have won X game here, X game there. My, how the times have turned. It's like now, Pollock played at Georgia. Why would he put out there that Bennett's not the answer if he didn't believe that? Or is he just saying things to get people to, rally his position? I don't know. But it's interesting, though, because Kirby Smart's going to have to make an educated decision on this eventually. And he goes into practice every day. Now, we could see what we see in games, but what do you see in practice? And something else with Kirby Smart is that he's a liar when it comes to his injury report. It's what it is. He's not going to give you a completely accurate injury report because he's in this backwoods Saban mentality. And that's basically what it is. Don't tell them anything because they may use it against us. That's exactly what it is. But we don't really know how healthy JT Daniels is. But let's just think for a moment. What happens if JT Daniels is healthy? He doesn't get the opportunity to go out there. I wonder how that's going to work. We'll see how that goes. Megan says he's been a Bennett man from day one. Yeah, I'm sure you have. Carolina Jackpot says UGA fans will never stop bashing that dude. I've seen it. Caden says, who cares? They'll win anyway. Keith says he doesn't want to piss off the UGA athletic staff. Okay. Brandon says Bennett is better than Doty and Uiagalelei. That's not really setting the bar very high, sir. Not setting the bar very high. we'll see how that works out for Georgia. They got to figure that out this week. And if JT Daniels is healthy, should he start? I don't know. Hasn't played since what? I think it's been out 3 weeks now. 803-978-1832, 803-978-1832. That is the number to call if you'd like to join us here on the Rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Of course, around the world on the iHeartRadio app. We'll have picks against the spread here in our final segment today. I think last week I went like 6-4 in the games that we picked on the Rundown here. So there's that. News from Clemson: Joseph Nagata has tested positive for COVID-19. Will be out for Saturday's matchup against Pitt. Out to the phones we go. Welcome into the Rundown. Good afternoon.
Hey, Rob, Scott from Hartsville, man. I wish I was in Pittsburgh this weekend.
Well, why? How can you go to Syracuse but not go to Pittsburgh? What's up with that?
I called my wife's sister fat.
and that kept you out of going to Pittsburgh?
Buddy, that kept me out of getting fed this week.
Well, you gotta use some Uber Eats or something, my friend. You gotta stay fed.
I've been to Sonic every day. I didn't know she was going to hear it.
Well, you're probably going to miss a good matchup up there. I think Clemson's going up there. It's not looking good for the Tigers with
they're looking short-handed
out. Yeah, they're looking short-handed on that front.
Is Williams going to play?
I don't know.
I know he's back and forth with his knee getting scoped.
Right. Yeah. From what we've been told, it's like a 50-50 thing, but we'll see.
Hey, I saw Paul Feinbaum say that the LSU job was as good as any NFL job. Do you buy that?
I think it's one of the top 5 college football jobs in the country, because I don't know about NFL jobs, because the NFL is a completely different animal. There's only 32 NFL jobs out there, right? And some places embrace their franchise more than others. Like I'm biased, but I think that the best NFL job is the Green Bay Packers, because of the legacy and the fact that it feels like every year they have a commitment to winning. Some folks could argue the Dallas Cowboys, what have you, but I think those are much better jobs than, say, Jacksonville and
Pittsburgh.
and something like that. But as far as college football jobs, I mean, LSU, they have a commitment to winning down there. They have great facilities. I mean, football is the quote unquote gospel down there, is what I've been told.
But the thing is, if you win a national championship and then 2 years later you don't do anything, they're going to run you off.
Well, but when they run you off, they're going to give you $12 million to go.
You get a lot of money.
I don't feel bad for Coach Orgeron, not one bit. He'll never pay for another drink in Baton Rouge ever. And he's got $12 million that they're just giving him up until 2025. I think he's going to get paid. So we'll see.
What do you think about the Virginia Tech job? You think that's going to open up this year?
Yeah, I think Justin Fuente is on borrowed time, and I think that used to be a great job. Now it's like, is that really the greatest job ever? I could never figure out why they hired Justin Fuentes when they had the coach in waiting there for 20-something years. Yeah, that's a good point. Randall corrected me online. It's $17 million. He's getting $17 million. $17 million? What's $5 million between friends? But no, I don't know why. I don't know why they didn't do that. No clue. I mean, you don't know what's going on behind the scenes with a lot of athletic directors and everything else. But and it's at some places it's hard to lure people to come there and take a job. So. Because they always think, man, I could get a better, bigger job. Napier down at Louisiana, there were jobs that were open last year that he probably could have gotten, but decided, hey, I don't want that job. So we'll see. I heard at Carolina they didn't want to pay him. Well, I mean, look, and I think that money is important to some spots, but you're going to have to pay a coach if you want him to come here. I mean, or anywhere. For that matter.
the Miami job is going to open up too. Which domino do you see falling first, and that's going to create a ripple effect across college football?
We've already had 3 dominoes fall with the 3 openings that are there. I mean, you got an opening in the two openings in the Pac-12, and then LSU, of course. After that, I mean, as far as the first coach to go, I don't know if it's going to be James Franklin or not. I think it'll be on the Power 5 level. I really think that if they're smart down at LSU, which if they're going after a big name, I think that's just stupid. You need to find someone that actually, in my opinion, wants to be there and has the X's and O's and all of that to back them up. I think Napier at Louisiana would be great. I mean, he knows the area. He knows how important it is down there. So,
how about maybe going and getting Lincoln Riley out of Oklahoma? I mean, they have the money. I don't think
he's going to leave there.
You don't think he'd leave Oklahoma?
No.
I mean, I think he'd have a better chance of winning a national championship if he, because they're going to be in the SEC anyway.
Yeah. Well, I also think that depending on how they align the SEC, I mean, if they put them in the West and then they balance it out by moving, I don't know, Arkansas to the East, I don't know how they're going to do it. But if it's a full SEC West schedule where Oklahoma has to play Alabama, LSU, Auburn, and Texas A&M every year, they're going to be basically, wishing they were in the East with Mizzou. That's pretty much what's going to happen because the East is, I mean, and a lot of people get upset when I say this, but it is the SEC easy. If you're in the East and you don't have that set of 4 on your schedule, you're not really playing a really tough schedule. It's not as tough as people make it out to be. It's really not. I mean, Georgia's there and they're a power, but come on, man. Florida is sputtering. Florida's sputtering and South Carolina's rebuilding. Same thing for Mizzou, and Tennessee's playing a team from the West. They're 27-point dogs this weekend. It's just not. It's not 1995 anymore.
What was your prediction for the Pitt game this week? You think Clemson's going to be able to?
I think Clemson's going to get it? I think. Well, you're making me give my pick early, but that's all right. That's all right. I don't have a problem with it. I think Pitt's going to win by probably 13 points. I think it's going to be like 30-17 or something like that. I'm saying 17 until Clemson's offense puts up more than 17 points against a Power 5 opponent. But right now, that Clemson offense is record level stupid. That's the only term I can use.
Yeah, I agree. All right, man. Thanks. Have a good weekend.
All right, brother. Thanks a lot. All right, Scott joining us from Hartsville. We appreciate him. Hopefully, his wife won't get upset with him again. Let's take a quick break. We'll come back. We'll have more for you in just a moment. This is The Rundown, Fox Sports Radio 1400. All right, quick poll over there for everybody in the chat room. Who thinks Beggin' Megan's trolling? Who thinks Beggin' Megan's trolling? Seriously. Just a yes or no vote over there. Who thinks Beggin' Megan's trolling? Oh, God, Brandon, what the hell? Beggin' Megan has a hedge bet. Come on, hey, send me your betting slip and I'll post it here so people can see it. You put $500 down. Let's have it. That's fair. Put begging in a room here. I'm not confident about that. Florida's terrible. Welcome back to the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400. Out to the phones we go. David joins us on the program. David, what's up, man?
Not much. Just give my picks for the two in-state schools for the weekend. I think South Carolina loses by about 30. I just think it's a recipe for just a massive blowout. Texas A&M's a very good team playing in a very, very raucous atmosphere. South Carolina has trouble putting anybody away on any field. They have to be pretty bad for Carolina to be in the game. But as far as Clemson goes, I mean, before the year, I never would have said what I'm about to say. But, I mean, I clearly think Clemson's going to lose this game. I think by about 6 points. Clemson's defense is just so good. They will be in every game they play, no matter what. And I refuse to believe that Pittsburgh's going to beat Clemson by 13 points. Georgia scored 3 points on Clemson offensively, and Georgia's by far the best team in the country. Clemson's shown that their depth behind the injured defensive tackles is pretty strong. Their defense is just really good. So, having said that, anybody who thinks that it's a foregone conclusion that South Carolina is going to lose to Clemson is crazy. Haven't been watching the games. Clemson struggles in every single game, just like Carolina does. Carolina is going to have a lot more to play for. There's a long streak of losses to Clemson. Clemson's offense is anemic. It's actually worse than South Carolina somehow, which is the most baffling thing I've ever witnessed in college football.
Yeah.
See a team go from that good to that bad that fast. This is the one time. I'll get up off the phone here in a second, but this is the one time that I really have a problem with Dabo. I just don't think he's being honest with people. He needs to come out and just be, we're not good, and come up with some reasons.
But he did say in his press conference on Tuesday, he said, you know what, we're going to look back, a couple of years from now and say, hey, remember that 6-game stretch where we absolutely stunk? I mean, he did say that in his press conference. So and that was the first time it hasn't been the whole sunshine and roses thing with him. But I think that he knows, and he talks about, best is the standard at Clemson, and the standard that he's put up there is not exactly what they've had on the offensive side of the ball. Defensively, they've been great, absolutely great, but offensively, I mean, they have just been terrible. That's the cleanest word I can use.
The Clemson teams the last few years would have killed to have the special teams that they have this year.
Not necessarily just the special teams, but the defense is stacked as it's been. The defense is crazy good.
No, the defense is incredible. I'm just saying we've had really good defenses the last couple of years, over the last few years, and we couldn't put all three phases together. Now we got the defense lights out. We got a special teams that's really good, which has not been a calling card in the Dabo Swinney era. And then the offense just disappears. I just want to see a little more. I mean, he told us after game 2, I promise you we don't stink, which was, now he's saying we do stink. Okay, Just come out and say what's going on. Because don't give me the Tommy Bowden, hey, a drop pass here, a turnover here, and it's a totally different game. You don't go from beating people 70-7 every week to barely winning by 2 points against the same teams. There's a lot more than just one problem, and I'd love to hear him talk frankly about those problems. Thanks a lot.
All right, well there you go. I can't speak for Coach Sweeney. I can tell you on this show though, and this isn't really that far-fetched of a statement. This is the worst Clemson team we've seen in 7 years, flat out. And I stand by what I said. And you know what? I'll be happy to moonwalk that back on Monday's program, on Reaction Monday. If Clemson holds them, gets within that 13-point window there, I'll be happy to walk that back, but I just don't see it. I think that Pitt's offense, if you watch the games, their offense is really good. They do a lot of things that can especially neutralize what Clemson's good at. Running up the middle is not going to work against Clemson. They do a lot of things with simple 3 to 4 yard short passes. Their wide receivers break tackles. That 4-yard pass turns into a 7 to 8 yard pass, and they just move up and down the field. And Kenny Pickett is razor sharp, doesn't screw up. He's thrown 1 pick on the season. It's going to be a tough road to hoe up there for Clemson. Full picks against the spread when we come back. This is The Rundown. You're listening to Fox Sports Radio 1400. You talking about with Clemson next year? Clemson will be fine next year. Man, the noon stretch of games tomorrow is just crummy. I can't even think about it. I mean, an even crummier stretch of games than those. Whoa. I think Tony Elliott is, you have to be responsible for what you put out there, and he's not putting a good unit out there. Yeah, I'm not watching that game. Ugh, Arkansas Pine Bluff. Yuck. Final segment of the rundown on Fox Sports Radio 1400 around the world on the iHeartRadio app. Picks for the weekend. Yes, here we go. By the way, we put this out there before we get started. The stretch of games this weekend are just terrible. I mean, there aren't very many great games out there. There really aren't. So the games that I'm picking, you're going to be like, why is he picking those games? Rob doesn't really pick a lot of Big Ten games. Yeah, I know. I know. But the games suck this week. Let's just leave it at that. As far as, hey, you know what? There's a marquee matchup that I'd like to watch. We don't have it. We really don't. But I'm going to give you the best of what we got here. Let's start with Ohio State and Indiana. Ohio State's a 19-point favorite. They opened up as a 19-point favorite, jumped to 21. Indiana's schedule has been tough. I think Indiana will cover. I think the more and more I think about it, I might have leaned towards Ohio State earlier in the week. I think 21's too much. Take Indiana and the points at home, but Ohio State will win. Illinois and Penn State. Penn State's a 23-point favorite. Give Penn State, give the 23 points at home up. They'll cover that. Georgia Tech's on the road at Virginia. Georgia Tech is a 6.5-point underdog. Jeff Collins, I don't know if he's going to right the situation any quicker than he has, but sometimes Georgia Tech is tough to watch. But I do like Bronco Mendenhall, so give me Virginia. Boston College and Louisville. Louisville is a 5.5-point favorite at home. Roll with Boston College. I think Boston College will bounce back after last weekend. Maryland at Minnesota. Minnesota's a 4-point favorite. Take Minnesota. And let's see here. Oh, here's your marquee matchup in the ACC this weekend, by the way. I know people are like, what about the Pitt-Clemson game? Yeah, that's there. But the reality is this. You have two marquee matchups, basically. NC State and Miami. Why is that a marquee matchup? Because NC State can get closer and closer to wrapping up the trip to Charlotte if they can win this matchup at Miami. ESPN's FPI has it pretty much a dead heat as NC State will play at Miami. NC State's a 3.5-point favorite. Take Miami to get the win, just to throw everything into crazy chaos. The other quote-unquote marquee matchup, Wake Forest, 6-0 on the season. They will play at Army out of conference. Army had the backdoor cover last week. They're a 3-point underdog at home. Take Army to win outright. There you go. Army with that option crazy offense they run. I think they're going to win that game. I'm picking this game because I like pain. Oklahoma is at Kansas. Yes. Oklahoma's a 38-point favorite, and everything looks like, oh, wow. Oklahoma should stomp them. And you know what? I'm going to roll with that. Give up the 38 points with Oklahoma. Kansas is really, really bad. Tennessee and Alabama. Alabama is a 25-point favorite at home. I think they win by 30. So roll with the tide there. Don't bet against Nick Saban too much. Who was it? Somebody said, one loss Nick Saban is a tough individual. He'll stick it to Tennessee. I believe that. Mississippi State and Vanderbilt. Mississippi State is a 23-point favorite over Vanderbilt on the road. The Commodores will cover in that matchup of SEC silly there. LSU and Ole Miss. LSU is at Ole Miss. LSU is a 9-point underdog. Ole Miss will cover. Lane Kiffin, everyone's favorite villain. So there you go with that. And by the way, Clemson's matchup with Pittsburgh, I think I put it out there earlier, but I am rolling with Pittsburgh to get the win by 13 points. And then we're going to have next week, by the way, your headlines for next week. Has Clemson lost it? What happened to the Clemson program? That's what it's going to be next week. And everyone that's, the SEC apologists where Clemson would mop the floor with them in the past years, the teams that couldn't quite make their way up to the top of the SEC. I'm talking about you, Tennessee. Tennessee fans getting mouthy on Twitter right now. Same thing with Kentucky fans. Man, we could beat Clemson this year. Yeah, that's some of the silly that I see that's out there. But that's what you're going to hear next week. Everything's going to be about Clemson did this and they lost that. Now, if Clemson wins this weekend, I will politely moonwalk it back. But I think that Pitt's just going to have too much. The one area where Pitt struggles is in their secondary, and Clemson doesn't have the ability to attack the secondary. So with that, Pitt wins by about 13 points, I think. They went from being a 3-point underdog at home to like a 4-point favorite. And the lines moved too much crazy on that, in my opinion. But the reality is that I like Pitt to win and win by about 13. Quick note here, putting out some of my fandom here. The Atlanta Braves went to Los Angeles last night and they lost their game to the LA Dodgers. Man, bless your heart, LA. Bless your heart, LA sports writers. All of you guys there have to come back to Atlanta. Ridiculous. It's sad for you folks. I feel bad for you. But Atlanta gets 2 opportunities to close it out as they get to do it again tomorrow. And I believe Sunday would be game 7 as they get set for the World Series, which will start next week. I still think Atlanta is going to take it. And I know people have the one stat that stings as a Braves fan is that the Braves have lost 4 straight NLCS clinching baseball games. That, my friends, is not very good. So if you are out in Atlanta, you're going to the game. I know Tyler Crowder, contributor to the program here, he has put out some stuff about he's going to catch one of the Braves games. If you see Bill Plaschke out there, buy the man some Waffle House. He's obviously never been. And if you're going to the Gold Club or whatever, the Magic City or whatever, take him there too. Because apparently, you know, he's coming to the South. He's not experiencing anything. He needs some of the silly that we have there. Look for the Braves to pick it up and win tomorrow. All right, so the rundown is done for the week. Lawton Swan of Clemson Sports Talk is next. I will be across the hall with our best Gamecock coverage tomorrow. We go on the air at 4 o'clock. Be sure to check us out on 103.5 FM WVOC. You can find us on the iHeartRadio app. We will see you tomorrow. All right, appreciate you guys. We'll see you later on. Megan, I'm waiting on that betting slip, sir.